Scott Perry represents Pennsylvania in the U.S. House. There's a debate that involves legalizing a form of marijuana. What's this about?
Okay, so it's important to talk about what it's not about first. It's not about legalizing the recreational use of marijuana. That's number one, because people think, well, what's going on with Perry here? Why is he doing this? This is about CBD. Cannabidiol is how it's pronounced, and it's an extract from the marijuana or industrial hemp plant. It's low in THC, the hallucinogenic portion of marijuana, the thing that gets you high. It hardly has any, 0.3%. So you literally could, I think, smoke thousands of marijuana cigarettes made from this plant, and you wouldn't have any effects, any hallucinogenic effects. So it's about extracting this oil and letting parents give it to their children, generally speaking, that have epileptic seizures. That's really what it's about, a treatment that right now, because of the federal prohibition on the plant and its extracts, doesn't allow people in Pennsylvania and across the country to treat their children. It's about legalizing, in that effect, this supplement as a supplement where the states can then allow parents and children to receive the oil from the extract from the plant to help them have a better quality of life. And let me give you, of course, we had some families come in, but in one case in particular, what really drew this attention was a girl named Charlotte Figge. All right, she went to Colorado, and she took the extract, this oil extract from this plant, and she went from 300 seizures a week to 4 a month. That's some of the anecdotal evidence. Meanwhile, families in Pennsylvania are forced to give their children all kinds of drugs that have a lot of side effects. They do all kinds of horrific things to their children and really don't fix the seizure issue. And the families are given a choice: either continue down that path of not seeing any improvement in their children and their quality of life, or displace the whole family or a portion of the family to states like Colorado, where they can avail themselves to this extract. The federal government is standing in the way because of the way they schedule the marijuana plant. They're standing in the way, and we sought legislation to get the federal government out of the way so parents could simply treat their children and improve their quality of life and their health.
And how does the current law read that prohibits the use of this treatment?
It puts it in the schedule. It puts marijuana and the cannabidiol in the Schedule 1 narcotic category. And we would seek to have.
And that means
that it's illegal to grow the plant or use anything from the plant. So even when it comes to testing, there's a lot of things that people say, well, medical marijuana might fix this. It might help with PTSD. It might help with a whole myriad, a whole range of things. If you can't test the extracts of the plant, the properties of the plant, because you can't grow the plant, how will you ever know? And so we're saying this particular plant, we literally specify the characteristics of the plant that you can grow, that can be grown, this low THC, high CBD. So again, getting rid of the hallucinogenic effects, because we don't want that, and I'm not for that. Never have been for that, still am not for that. But to grow this plant that has these very specific properties so families can avail themselves of the oil that is extracted. It's taken orally by these children.
Is this oil derived from marijuana plants legal in other states?
It is in Colorado and Washington.
So we've learned from their experience, I expect.
Yes, we have. And that's what's having Pennsylvania families literally either splitting apart. One parent takes the child to Colorado so that they can give the child the treatment. The other parent stays here, keeps the home, and keeps, funding the family. Or the whole family displaces. They uproot their careers and their lives and, for the sake of their child, move to Colorado. And as a parent, you can imagine, you want the best for your child, but yet in Pennsylvania, you cannot get it. And partially because the federal government stands in the way. Now, Colorado has just essentially said, we're not going to listen to the federal government in this regard, which is a problem in and of itself, and I acknowledge, and I don't necessarily
When did they legalize it out that way?
I think it was about 1.5 years or so ago, if memory serves. I'm not sure exactly correct. But to me, the federal government shouldn't be standing in the way and making states and families make that choice. Do I want to be a lawbreaker, or do I want to give my child a treatment that shows really no known side effects and has shown amazing promise?
Well, that's important. Talk about the doctor's point of view on the prospect of success with this drug.
Okay, so we've reached out to the medical community, law enforcement community, the whole spectrum. trying to make sure we made the best bill. And of course, there is evidence, okay, but one of the problems, again, is there's very little testing done in the United States on cannabidiol, on marijuana, because you can't grow the plant. So the medical profession...
Except in Colorado and
Washington State. Generally speaking, there are some universities that have special permits, and there's actually a pilot program going on, just started in Pennsylvania recently. But it makes it very, very difficult, and we're way behind countries like Israel that have been experimenting and studying for years and years and years, and it forces America to go to those countries.
Well, Governor Corbett said he was going to do something here in Pennsylvania.
Right.
What's the latest on that?
Well, I think they actually
Is that the pilot program you just referred to?
No, that's what he's talking about is legislation. He's generally supportive of the pilot program, if I can speak for him, as I understand it. There's legislation moving through the Pennsylvania Senate. It just came out of committee yesterday, which is more expansive than I'm actually comfortable with, but I think it actually opens up the conversation and the debate. How far should we go? How fast? What is the right thing to do? But again, even if that legislation passes at the federal level, it is illegal. And as a federal legislator, I am seeking to get the federal legislature and the federal government out of the way of the states so that they can do their thing and regulate and so on and so forth in this very specific instance.
How did you first become aware of this issue?
Certainly, it was families that came in. And
your constituents?
My constituents, right. They came in and on at least one occasion brought their child with them so that I could see the effects. And I tell you, as a parent myself, I put myself in their position. They're following the law. They're abiding by the rules and regulations, doctor's orders, prescriptions that are detrimental to their own child, but desperate for a solution. And meanwhile, while they're going through this, seeing no effects, seeing no improvement in their child, seeing side effects, they're watching people halfway across the country in Colorado see the seizures go from 300 a week to 4 a month, and they're saying, Representative, what are you doing to help us? Why is the federal government standing in the way? And can't you see, can't you understand where we are? And after the first two, I said, let's do some research here. Actually, after the first one, let's do some research. And after the second one, absolutely. So actually, by the time what kind
of research did you compile? What was the data that led you on to pursue this?
Well, again, we've got the staff to reach out to all stakeholders in the community and the arguments and just try and get anecdotal evidence, trying to get the statistical analysis of how many seizures and how this helped and how it's administered and what are the side effects.
And what did you learn about epilepsy? You're not a medical doctor, of course, but how dangerous is epilepsy?
Well, it's very dangerous. If you have these seizures, I mean, it stunts the growth of the hundreds of seizures in a week's period of time. I mean, literally dozens and dozens per day, and that just stunts brain development and physical development to a point where even if they grow out of it, they are way behind for the rest of their lives. Many of them confined to wheelchairs, cannot speak, cannot communicate, and this is the life of the parents and the child.
Can it be life-threatening?
Absolutely. It shortens life, generally speaking, and absolutely. And so to me, once we did this research, it was pretty clear to me that really had a duty to try and do what we could. It seemed to me, again, the federal government should be, we say in our constitutional preamble, the pursuit of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. And how do you have life and liberty if the treatment is right there, but you can't get to it because you're breaking the law? And again, we have no known side effects, generally speaking. It's, it's not like drunk driving.
Over the long term? How do we look there?
Over the long term, as far as we can tell, no really known side effects. I mean, I'm sure there's going to be one case here or there, or maybe it didn't work as well as another case. But generally speaking, this, as far as comparative to other prescription drugs that are normal on the everyday market that children are taking right now, nothing even close. And you say to yourself, why can't the government get out of the way?
Now, if this is legalized, does that mean Pennsylvanians someday might be able to go to the pharmacy and just buy it over the counter, or is it strictly a prescription thing?
Well, this is what it means. It means the federal government gets out of the way and allows the states to regulate. So if you're familiar with how we handle alcohol in Pennsylvania.
So that's only part of the battle.
That's only part of the battle. Then it has to go state by state because maybe Pennsylvania says, look, you can import the plant or the oil based on these, because see, there are a lot of other were pesticides used in growing the plant? What are the characteristics of this plant? Some plants work, some plants don't. The genetics of the plant. All this is very complicated. How does the state know? They can either decide to regulate as much as what they want or as little as they want. We leave that to the states. But we want, again, my job as the representative of the federal government is to get out of the way so that the states can do their job, so that their citizens can have the best quality of life that they should have. and have this available to them.
Now, you're usually known as a conservative lawmaker, and here you are with the word marijuana